Fox News reporting that President Zelensky of Ukraine is ready and willing to make a deal to end the war with Russia.
That President Trump wants to meet immediately with Vladimir Putin, and that President Zelensky has told President Trump that he is ready to make a deal to end the war. So obviously a very big development on that front, and we'll play it out for you as soon as we get it.
And, of course, Trump has suggested that he will impose sanctions on Putin and Russia if Putin doesn't come to the negotiating table, probably something he should do even after Putin does come to the negotiating table and they agree to some sort of armistice. There's all sorts of reasons to impose tariffs on Putin for various bad acts having nothing to do directly with Ukraine, but the invasion of Ukraine is a good occasion to use tariffs as a cudgel as well. For more on the prospects for peace in Eastern Europe, please, and other regions like the Middle East, please be joined again by Cliff May, president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and foreign affairs columnist for the Washington Times. Cliff, how optimistic should we be about the potential for a cessation of hostilities in Eastern Europe?
Well, you can be hopeful, but I wouldn't be optimistic. The argument that's taking place right now is over how bad the pain is for Putin, how much he senses the pain being bad on two levels. One is the economy, and the other is, of course, he has lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers in this battle. Does he care about the soldiers? I don't think he really does, except for the fact that he thinks I need to get more, and it's not so easy for me to get more. And the economy, he does still have oil. Look, what he is doing is, it's very important to understand what he's doing, and a lot of people don't. And I say this as somebody, as you know, who for more than a half a century has been studying Russia. He wants to restore the Russian Empire. He does not feel threatened by NATO. He doesn't think Dutch forces are about to move in and they're going to come in through Ukraine. Now, is there a way he can accept less and maybe he feels he can build back better? Maybe. Keep in mind what he's doing in Ukraine, vital to restore the Russian Empire if he's going to do it, vital if he's going to be the czar. It's not all he's doing. Belarus is essentially a vassal state at this point. He has two provinces of Georgia, and he is manipulating the government there. Armenia is becoming something of a vassal state. He's threatening Moldova. He has ambitions. He has a mission at this point in his life. It is not impossible that he may say, I need a pause, I need a ceasefire, I need time to get more weapons, which he's getting, by the way, to a great extent from North Korea. He's also gotten bodies from North Korea. When I say bodies, I mean that literally because they come in as soldiers, but they end up as bodies. So again, maybe there's some way at least to have a ceasefire. Do not confuse ceasefire with peace. Maybe some way to get an armistice. I think that's a perfectly good word that you have used. I don't know that it necessarily leads to peace in that part of the world.
So should Trump then deploy sanctions if there's any recalcitrance from Putin?
Absolutely. What he absolutely needs to do is not go in thinking Putin wants peace, I want peace, Zelensky wants peace. Let us find a path to peace. I'm sure we can. No, that's stupid. What he has to say is, Putin, there's terrible pressure I will have to put on you if this doesn't come out the way I want it to. I'm going to do that economically. I'm going to do that because you have huge amounts of wealth in Europe. I'm going to convince the Europeans that wealth should simply be confiscated and turned over as reparations to the Ukrainians. I'm going to impose terrible pain on you. I would rather not. We can come out of this and the pain will be alleviated. But here's all you're going to get. And then you can say, all right, Crimea, I'll tell Zelensky, you got Crimea back. You need that for your Black Sea Fleet. I get that. Maybe some of Donetsk, but this is not going to be a vassal state. You're not taking it over. You're not having somebody who kisses your ring in the Kremlin every 3 weeks. That's not what's going to happen here. It stays an independent state because we gave it guarantees, and because in the world we live in, you are not allowed to cross the border with tanks and simply take over another country. And I'm sorry, you may think it's not, but Ukraine is another country because the Ukrainians think they're another country.
The report that Trump is reportedly moving to cut U.S. troop presence in Europe by 20%. That's pulling about 20,000 troops. This is sort of one step forward, one step back, one step forward again, because he pulled 12,000 troops out of Germany his first go around, and Biden later reversed that. So it's almost just sort of a resetting the table to his posture in term one. Any qualms with that?
Look, I don't think it's not something I would recommend if I were sitting there as his advisor. But I think part of what he's trying to do, and I don't blame him for this at all. He's right, is to say to the Europeans, you really have to contribute a lot more to the collective security than you have been, and that means, and he's mentioned this before, you need to get up to about 5% of GDP on defense, because we're going to have problems. Whatever ceasefire I get with the Russians, there are threats here. You have to stand up. We have global responsibilities, the U.S., so you, the Europeans, you're wealthy, you have to start taking more responsibilities yourself. I think fewer troops in Germany are a good idea. Look, the Poles have asked several times, how about moving those troops to Poland? We'll help you. What can we do to make that better? The Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, they'd all love to have U.S. troops there. Actually, my son, who was in the military, did a stint in Estonia for a while just after Russia invaded Ukraine. Unfortunately, it was mostly in tennis, but when he got to Riga, he said it was quite nice. So, look, it is very
Tallinn is beautiful. Tallinn, the old city in Tallinn in Estonia, is beautiful.
Tallinn, Riga, absolutely. Look, I think the U.S. wants to have allies and wants to have allies who contribute to the defense and who, in many cases, take on common enemies, which, in my view, the Ukrainians are doing as best as they possibly can. They are fighting. And they are deteriorating the Russian forces. It is good to have allies who are not dependent on you, but help you do what you need to do, and want to see America as the leader of the free world, and a strong leader at that.
What about the ceasefire for hostages agreement? I know 3 women were released, but when are we going to see the Americans be freed?
Well, we should have been the first round, it seems to me. That should have been part of the negotiations. Part of what should have happened, and by the way, it should have happened a year ago, is the U.S. should have said to the rulers of Qatar, Qatar, who Biden immediately made a major non-NATO ally, you now have a responsibility. You host, you fund, you help Hamas. You say you're important to us as a mediator. You got to be more than that. You've got to say to the Hamas leaders who live in Qatar, you get the Americans out. In fact, you get all the hostages out, or we will consider you accessories to this crime. And if you're accessories to this crime, you don't live at the Four Seasons Hotel, we have another place for you. And the Americans may want to put you on trial, and we will extradite you. You know why? Because we are a major non-NATO ally of the U.S. Now, there's all these people who are saying, oh, but the Qataris are so helpful. I don't see how they've been so helpful. And this deal is not a great deal. Most Israelis, based on the polls and other information I have, think it's a terrible deal, but necessary because they want their people out. Within the Jewish nation, the idea of let my people go is fairly old. Redeeming captives is fairly old.
but I mean,
said to Pharaoh.
Yeah, but I mean, the let's be specific. The Qatar was very helpful. That's what Steve Witkoff, Trump's envoy to the Middle East, has said.
With all due respect, I think that's overstated, but I know he thinks that. I know a lot of people.
He said I know but I mean he said that explicitly. I'm quoting him verbatim. Qatar was enormously helpful in this, and now the reporting is that he may be the point person to enter into discussions with the Iranians about their nuclear program. And my question then is Witkoff, and by extension the Trump administration, being led down a primrose path here? Witkoff also said that it would be, it would be great to engage with Hamas for future negotiations on all matters. I mean, are the Iranians and other Islamist terrorist groups like Hamas good faith partners when it comes to negotiations?
My answer is no. My answer is I'm concerned about this. If in fact, and I'm not sure it's true that he will have that role, but I am sort of concerned that he doesn't know the history and the current status of the Middle East well enough, and that some of these remarks don't make a lot of sense, such as, let's sit down with Hamas. Look, even, Alan Dershowitz said something I thought that was very apt. It's in my column in the Washington Times this week. He said, look, we talk about this as a deal. If somebody steals your daughter, kidnaps your daughter, and then says, hey, give me $1 million and maybe I'll let her come home. Maybe I'll let her come home alive. You never know. We don't say, oh, that sounds like a good deal. We say that's a crime followed by another crime. The kidnapping is a crime. The extortion is a crime. So let's be careful when we say, oh, this is a deal. And isn't it wonderful? Aren't those who helped us get this deal wonderful people? Because it doesn't really make sense.
Your colleague, Rich Goldberg, a friend of the show, mentioned
Yes.
On the matter of the Iranian nuclear weapons program. There's, he made the distinction, which is an important one, the difference between the time needed to produce weapons-grade uranium and the time needed to weaponize said weapons-grade uranium. And so the reporting is focused, is all this, they're a weekend away from the culmination of their nuclear enrichment program, but that's the production side. That's not the weaponization side. So we have more time than some people may understand.
Yeah, and Rich is right, as he always is. The only thing is that needs to be added, it's very hard for us to know how the weaponization is going because it takes place in secret in very small quarters. So unless you have very good intelligence, I don't think the U.S. does. Maybe Israel does. You never know. It's hard to know how that's advancing and at what point it is completed. So it is a danger. It does give you some more. But I think there's really a window of opportunity now because the air defenses of Iran were kind of knocked out, not 100%, but close to it, when Israel retaliated for the drone and missile strike that Iran launched against them, which was the biggest drone and missile strike, I think, ever in history. But thanks to Israeli technology and American technology working together, very few of those missiles landed on their intended victims.
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily have to say this publicly, and you don't have to be particularly bellicose. But I mean, if I was dispatching Witkoff, let's say, to Iran, I mean, my message to him would be remind them that we haven't forgotten what we did to Soleimani. We know they haven't. Well, we haven't either. And so you better tread lightly.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's exactly right. And this, in a way, what applies to Putin applies here too. To use the old cliche, you're gonna do better with sticks than with carrots. They're not looking necessarily for peace. They're not necessarily looking for a better economy so that everybody has a 401k and the best darn healthcare plan in the Middle East. That's not what they want.
Wow.
Whether it's Khamenei or whether it's Putin or I'm afraid Xi Jinping, they want to build their empires.
Cliff
and
May.
It's not to address grievances, it's build empires. Genghis Khan did not conquer most of Europe and Asia because he wanted to address legitimate grievances.
Yeah, wasn't worried about unequal wealth distribution.
No, I don't think so.
Cliff May, president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, foreign affairs columnist for the Washington Times. Thanks, Cliff.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Is your child getting the personalized attention they need to excel in math? Mathnasium has a solution for students of all skill levels. Each child's strengths and weaknesses, creating a customized learning plan. If you have kids in school, you're probably starting to see how they're doing in math. Could it be better? Consider an individual assessment with Mathnasium. They'll pinpoint what your child needs to excel, then give them live, face-to-face instruction, either in-center or online, so they can catch up and get ahead. At Mathnasium, math is taught in a way that makes sense to students, so they understand it, master it, and enjoy it. Over 1 million parents have already